when people asked me what my TEDx talk topic was going to be this year, and I said it was called Welcoming the Weird into Your Life, a few people looked at me and said, "Oh, you're not that weird." But a lot of other people looked at me and said, "Oh, that's a really good topic for you." So what those varied reactions show is weird is relative. What's weird to one person is perfectly normal to somebody else. And the subjective nature of weird reminded me of the statement that Justice Potter made about pornography when he said, "I know it when I see it." And I think weird is just as abstract. But as abstracted as it does have a definition that originally was related to fate and destiny, and only a couple hundred years ago was linked with the strange and the odd and the abnormal. So ask yourself, am I weird? And I mean you, not me. So ask yourself that. And as you're pondering if you're weird, I'll tell you what Peter Sagal from NPR's Wait, Don't Tell Me said about being weird. He said, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I don't know what they're talking about, I didn't have a weird roommate in college, you're the weird roommate. So I think that whether or not your answer was yes or no to are you weird, there's a lot of weird in people. Even the people that you think are most normal have a small component of weird in them, whether it's weird dress, weird tastes, or weird habits. Personally, in my own life, the times that people have called me weird have been because of a couple of reasons. One being my expression for my love of the body and all things having to do with the body, whether it's bodily functions, skin, flesh, teeth, touch. I also have been called weird because I've been told I have filter failure in conversations with people, meaning that I will decide to launch immediately into talking with someone about topics that I love but others find uncomfortable. Things like sex, sexuality, erotica, basically the fact that I find everything sensual and everything should be touched can sometimes make people feel a little uncomfortable. So before we figure out if you're weird or how you're weird, maybe we should figure out your weird baseline. And that's basically the threshold where you go from feeling really curious to just downright uncomfortable. And I'm going to show you a few images and gauge your reaction to those images to kind of flesh out your baseline. So, and don't judge your feeling, because you might be excited or repulsed or aroused. Just be aware. So this slide I've shown to a couple of my friends, and one of them thought maybe they were petals of a flower. Another thought they were onion slices, but you're laughing, and it's been up here a long time, so you can tell what they are. This photograph documents a portion of my collection of fingernails. So if you couldn't originally tell that they were fingernails, and then you figured it out later, was there a difference in the way that you reacted? Do you think it's weird? Are you uncomfortable? Or do you maybe want to start your own collection? And I will encourage you, if you would like to add to mine, to contact me afterwards and I'll give you my mailing address and you can send me all your fingernail clippings. Because none of these are mine. I don't collect my own. I think that would be cheating. These are the fingernails of other people. And my best friend Richard Penner has actually donated his clippings to me more than once. And what he's doing is engaging with me in an activity that he actually thinks is kind of gross. He doesn't think it's weird, but he thinks it's gross. And his openness and curiosity has allowed him to become an active participant in something that others may call my weirdness. So when you see this next image, gauge your reaction to it. This is a project called Ear on Arm by the Australian performance artist Stellark. And what it is a cell-cultivated relief of an ear that he had surgically implanted under his forearm. But this isn't the entire project. They're going to grow a new ear using his adult stem cells. They're going to equip it with a wireless transmitter and a microphone so that after it's under his skin, we will be able to access that ear via the internet and hear what it hears. And what he's done for his whole career has worked to understand the limitations of the body as well as the possibilities of expansion of the body through physical and technological means. So does knowing the motivation of someone's weirdness or someone's art, does that change the way that you felt when you first saw the picture? So you can probably tell that this project has to do with blood and bodily fluids because there is a syringe and a needle. And this piece of art in English is called May the Horse Live in Me, and it was performed in February of this year in Vienna. And one of the artists of this French art duo, Art Orienté Apogee, prepared for this piece of art by injecting herself for several months with horse immunoglobulins to basically build up a tolerance until she was able to undergo a live transfusion with a horse during the exhibit without going into anaphylactic shock. So, do you think it's weird to inject a human with a substance from another species? Or does it maybe make you look at biotechnology and medicine a little differently? And do you think if you were to undertake a project like this, would that require you to expand your own boundaries of comfort? There's a quote that she said, which I think speaks to the benefit of opening yourself up to new and uncomfortable experiences and explorations, which is, let the vision emerge after having dived into knowledge. This is my very favorite piece of art, and I hope that someday I will travel to Tasmania to the Museum of Old and New Art and visit this personally. Now, you can probably tell it has to do with defecation, and a lot of people usually consider bodily functions as inappropriate topics of conversation or inquiry. But this piece, which is a cubicle toilet and has an integrated 4-way mirror system and a pair of binoculars, actually invites you to investigate the marvels of your own body. And it's done by a collective of artists in Austria, and one of them is quoted as saying, "The drama happens by watching your sphincter slowly opening and releasing the digestive byproducts. It's a very weird feeling, seeing and experiencing your body in that way. Hypnotic." So maybe these images helped you figure out what your weird baseline is. But one thing they do is they open us up to new ways of seeing and understanding the world and the human condition and the human body. And yes, you likely won't come across this type of art or these artists in your daily life. But you've likely encountered people that have made you feel similarly to the way that you felt when you saw the images. And I want you to use those reactions to inform your behavior in future interactions with people. Because if you've ever felt disturbed or uncomfortable when talking to someone or looking at a piece of art, your first impulse might be to shut down or walk away or judge. But you have to ask yourself, where could that conversation have taken you? And how can you keep it going? Well, you can start by really listening to what the person is saying. Because a lot of times, if we're feeling shocked by somebody, what we will do is we'll stop listening and we'll start censoring. We'll say things like, "Okay, stop there. Don't go any further." But instead, maybe ask the person, why? Or why is this so important to you? Because it all comes down to being open. And a friend of mine, Amy Chittenden, sent me this great quote when I was preparing this talk. It's a quote by the physicist Adam Rees, who shared the Nobel Prize for Physics this year. And he said, "You don't want to completely close your ears and eyes to seeing the weird things, because some of the most interesting things were at one point weird." Now, the onus doesn't just fall on the people who may be feeling uneasy in a conversation. It falls equally on the person who can essentially shut down dialogue because they are totally insensitive to the way other people are feeling. And I've been the perpetrator of this with my graphic tongue in a lot of instances. So what can we do to prevent that? Well, one thing that you can do is be aware of the visual cues that people are giving you. I'm usually blind to the fact that when someone starts to fidget or look away or look around or give me a horrified expression with large unblinking eyes, for a lot of years I mistook that for they're really interested. And they're not, they're terrified. So what you need to do is ask that person, are you uncomfortable? Or have you ever felt something like this before? Because by asking them a question, you will empower them to continue to engage with you. And we have to remember that not everyone has the same weird threshold. For instance, it did take me a lot of years to realize that not a lot of people immediately want to talk with me about fellatio and masturbation. So now I wait until maybe the second conversation to do that. And welcoming the weird into your life doesn't just apply to the people who consider themselves as living on the lighter end of the weird spectrum. It's also applied to the people who consider themselves as living on the saturated end of the spectrum, because there are a lot of weird elitists out there. There are people that will wear weird as a badge of honor and consider themselves as having membership in a very small and select group of weirdos. And while being open is great, being open to only something that you think is weird is actually going to totally cut them off from new experiences. And you can't judge how odd someone is, really, until you get to know them. So you have to get to know people. Now, the spectrum of weird is huge. It can fit a lot of people, and you'll find people in your life that live on the far end of it, or they live very close to you. And when my friend and artist J.J. Carroll handed me a bag of 1 month's worth of his belly button lint, I knew that we were right next to each other on the spectrum of weird. And I framed that belly button lint, and I put it in my living room so that every day the myriad colors remind me that actually there is an infinite nature to the spectrum of weird, and I have to be open to all those colors. Now, my best friend is in town from Seattle, and I gave her this talk yesterday and felt very confident. And then she said to me, "So why is this topic important to you?" And I thought, oh, damn. I haven't conveyed why it's important to me. And I think to do that, I would actually have to give you my skin to live in. But you're going to have to take this presentation as just a little bit of my neck or my knee or my tongue, because you'd have to live my life or the life of someone else. But I will tell you that it's very important to me because I have been extremely lucky. Because for all the times that I've been called weird in my life, and for all the times that someone has stepped back from me and given me a sneer and very rudely said, "You're weird," I've had just as many people step closer to me and say in a really celebratory way, "You're weird." And I encourage you to be like those people, because censoring someone will shut them down and it will cut them off to thinking. And we don't do that to children, but we do it to adults and friends that we consider weird or different. And when you encourage someone to be weird or to engage their differences, you can actually let them have a more open and expansive and creative take on life. So how can you do that? You can remember that to simply brush away something that you think is weird or to not engage with a piece of art, you're eliminating a lot of possibilities. You're eliminating the possibility of dialogue and learning and understanding someone who sees the world totally differently from you. And you also can make a lot of connections by welcoming the weird into your life, new friendships and new connections in your mind. But most importantly, you have to remember that by talking to people who make you uncomfortable, and by being aware that you make other people uncomfortable and thereby treading gently and respectfully, it opens up unlimited new ways of seeing. And as I like to say, it's like filling every orifice of your body with a brand new eyeball. So go welcome the weird. Thank you.